I think he purposefully put me in scary situations just to rescue me. And I love tagging along with him or having him drag me somewhere into some experience to have the ultimate adventure. We did have several near-death experiences, but with Nate, what would you expect? I live for those times we shared together. I remember one night, while we were in Oregon, he and I were laying and we talked for, I don't know, it was till like 4 in the morning. We just laid there and talked about our life and everything we'd gone through and our family. And I remember he told me, after all those experiences we had and all those panic attacks I had with us almost dying, he told me, you were so strong. He goes, I was mostly telling you would be okay and that we would get through whatever experience we were going through. But he said, I was telling myself the same thing. And I said, what? You were so calm. And he said, I know, I had to be calm for you. Pretty much that made my lifetime, to know that I had been part of some of his great stories I admired so much. I was so excited to be able to share in some of Nathan's near-death experiences. The other day I was reminded of how much he meant to me as a child. In the midst of moving back and forth between my dad and mom, he and I always went together. One year after spending the summer once with my mother, I decided to go back to Oregon for school while he stayed in Texas. Even though I missed my mother dearly, I realized I couldn't live without Nathan. And after about a week of being in Oregon, I flew back to Texas so we could be together again. I was Nathan's tag-along. I was Nathan's copycat. I was Nathan's teenage fan club. I was really looking forward to get to know him as an adult, as I knew him as a child. And I was excited to be able to make him proud of me one day. I don't feel like as an adult I got that chance. But he knew I was on my way to getting there. He had faith in me. I felt like going out on the boat on Monday night was my first and last opportunity to save him. I knew he wasn't there really, but I knew he would have been proud of me to go and get his body. Nate, I want you to know that I'm rejoicing in your death as I was in your life. And I've told God that the strength and protection you provided me all these years is now in his hands, as it always was. But he was gracious to provide me a glimpse of who he is through you. And Jack, I'm so excited to tell you all the stories of how Nathan protected me and loved me. And I'm really glad for that opportunity. He was a great man. And I loved him.
I've always been really nervous about talking in front of people, but Nate was always the kind of person that could push you to go as far as you can. And I don't know that I'll be able to make it up here, but sorry. I just wanted to start out by saying thanks to everyone here. Thank you for coming. And thank you for your support. It's been very healing to have so many people here that care. Nathan was awesome, but big brother, though he was my cousin by birth. He treated and considered me as his sister. He totally opened up to me and really cared how I was doing and what was going on in my life. He not only talked to me, but he guided and taught me. He taught me anything from how to stand up on the skis to lessons like loving life and living it to the fullest. I love recalling the story that was before Tim and Andy got married, and they were outside in the garden. They had asked me to play The Rose on the piano while Charlotte played the violin, and Nate sang. We were trying to serenade them, but it sounded so awful. It was so funny, and Tim and Andy just laughed and laughed. It is stories like these that give us joy during this time, and I'm so thankful that Nate is finally home. Thank you, Nathan, for the life that you lived. Lessons that you taught. I love you, and I will see you soon.
Well, just a sec, I gotta open up my paper. First thing I was gonna read was Critic by Theodore Roosevelt. Somebody already did that. But, did want to say, if two people are gonna get up to your funeral, read the same exact poem, you should read it sometime, because it definitely applies. I never met a man who lived this poem by Roosevelt as well as my brother. And I've met a lot of crazy people. And Nate was there when I wanted to be crazy. Tim was too. We're never going to have the three of us swimming in the ocean when it's snowing outside. We're never going to do that again. I'm going to miss it. But Nate, he should have been gone when he was 3, when he was 2, climbing up trees, drowning, getting in crazy car wrecks. God definitely prepared me for this. And even on Monday, I had the worst migraine I've had since I was 12. Randomly, I was an hour and a half late for work. And I put my swimsuit on because I couldn't find my underwear. I thought that was pretty weird. So, my mom calls me up, and I was thankful. I was really, really thankful that God had prepared me a little bit for it. And I got to meet Nathan's son, Jack, with Nathan, just 2 days before. Second thing I was going to talk about, Tim talked about. That was a very defining moment in Nathan's life when he was up on the mountaintop. And he wasn't bragging about it. He wasn't telling everybody about it. He wanted us to know because he had a serious encounter with God, and he wanted his brothers to know about it because that's how much he cared. And that's how close we were. So those were the first two things I was going to talk about. Wow. I'm supposed to be good on my feet. That's what I do for a living on the phone, but wow. One of the lines in here that really gets me is just the great devotions. Nathan was devoted. And one of the things that I've thought about quite a bit during my lifetime is just, what did Jesus really do when he was down here? A lot of it was hanging out with people. Getting meals together, going to people's houses, talking, relaxing, discussing serious things, discussing light things. And that's what Nate did so often. Nate was a mecca for friendship. He was a place where people came and he didn't hold back. He didn't push people away. He brought them in, brought them all in. And it's just such a godly characteristic. I deal with Nathan's death knowing that he lived a full and abundant godly life. And I'm going to miss him, but I'm so grateful for what I have been given.
Matt is going to come and talk, and Matt is Nathan's friend who was with him on the boat on Monday. And we are so grateful that you're okay.
I guess I first met Nathan in college, and we were both roommates at the University of North Texas. It was kind of a potluck meeting, so I was really worried about the roommate I was going to get. And I was already freaking out because University of North Texas was really big compared to the town I came from. But anyways, Nathan was the best roommate I could ask for. Jeremy said it best when he said Nathan was a mecca for friendship. I'm sorry, guys. He just all I know is I'm very blessed to have had him in my life. And I truly am sorry for those of you who didn't know. That's how blessed I feel. And he helped me become more assertive. He challenged me. The same kid who taught me to cause ruckus also taught me to get up at 6 in the morning to read the Bible with him. Whenever he went to Europe, he told me the people I needed to minister to hold friendships together. He's just an unbelievably unique individual. Like, he would get me up at 4 in the morning to go see a meteor shower. He'd be interested in just the weirdest things. But he just had such an inquisitive mind. More importantly, I cared about what he cared about, not because of the trivial things, but because I knew his heart wasn't so much for the things, but his heart was for us. Anyways, I know he wouldn't want this to be a sad day. And I'm just blessed to have known him. And I thank God for every 24 years that he was here. So, thank you.
Anybody find my Bible? We've noticed of late that we're not able to keep track of things very well. I had my Bible and my notebook in my hand and it has disappeared. Lauren, can I use things? I wanted to tell you the journey that we've been on for the last week. And if I don't make eye contact with you for very long, it's because I love you and it's going to get to my heart and I want to get through this. So I'll just kind of keep doing this. There's a song we sing on Sunday mornings. It's from the book of Job. And the story of Job is a man who is righteous and good and prosperous. And there's a lot of stuff in this book. And God draws Satan's attention to this man. Have you considered my servant Job? And in one day, Job gets a series of messengers to tell him that the Sabaeans have come and taken his camels. And, all his wealth has been destroyed. And while one messenger is there, another one comes and delivers more bad news. And finally, a messenger comes and says, your 10 children who were celebrating together have all died. And I can't find Job. These tabs are worthless to me. Here it is. And Job's response. He tears his clothes. He shaves his head in mourning. He falls to the ground and worships. And every time that I've read that and studied that in the past, it's been, oh, yeah, what a righteous guy. Of course he's going to worship God. I get it now. I so get it. God has been so gracious to us. In his timing, in his generosity, in the care of his people. We've heard of people in Africa and the United Kingdom and around the world and around the country lifting us in prayer, and we have felt the prayer of the saints lifting us and supporting us. And God's timing is so perfect. The first day, the day Nathan died, we knew. I know how cold the water is, we knew. And you know, God got me. Because just a week or two before, I think I had been feeling isolated. We've been here for a couple of years, and I felt like I really hadn't deeply connected with anybody. And I was at a women's ministry meeting here a couple of weeks ago, and I confessed in my frustration that if anything happened to me or to my family, there's no one in this church that I would call. And when I came home from the post office and I saw the sheriff's car, my first thought was, okay, who did what? You gotta know the men in my family. They're all bearded, they're all crazy. Sabrina ran out the door and said, Nathan's missing in Devil's Lake. And the very first thing that I did was call a church. I said, this is Jolita Taylor. My son is missing. Pray. That's all I said. And we went over to Holmes Road Park where the command center was. Tony Giles was already there. Freezing outside, he's standing there in a t-shirt. Bob Henry shows up. Derek Plummer. And I'm looking through this room and I'm seeing faces that were standing beside us, holding us up in the cold, in the rain, waiting for them to bring a body out of the water. And I went home. I knew people would be coming home, and women from the church had come and had prepared food for us, and I gotta tell you, we're not done with it. And if I could give a plug, Otis Cafe's potatoes, hallelujah. After 3 days in the oven, however, not so good. And I'm sorry, Timmy, that we didn't warn you that they'd been there for a few days. Tim came home, and he had a look in his eyes that I had never seen before. And I said, what's going on? He said, we're going after Nathan, we're going to get him. And Lauren and I thought they were nuts. It was dark, it was raining, it was snowing, it was miserable. And Bob Foswick had a boat. And my husband and my kids and Matt they went out and there's a fierce love of a father that says, I will not stop until my son is in my arms again and I can bring him home. And that's the same fierce love that our Heavenly Father has for us. He's not going to stop until we are safely in his arms and he brings us home. And it was the same look on his face when I woke him up on the morning that Timmy arrived. And I said, do you want me to go get him? I'm already up and I'm dressed. He said, no, we're getting my son. It's the same look. Carrie and Brian showed up at the house Monday night, and they weren't there 2 minutes when the phone rang. God's perfect timing. And it was Tim. I found him. I'm bringing him home. And it was the release. The wait was over. It was time to begin the completion of it all. And they brought him home, and he was laying in the back of the pickup truck. And he looked like he just fallen into a big puddle and fell asleep. And I walk out there, and his head is cradled in my husband's arms. And it is completely the peace which surpasses all understanding, that we as a family were able to sit around him and hold him and touch him and kiss him and love him and praise and rejoice and thank God in the worst possible moment of our lives, to say, thank you even for this. We've been on this roller coaster ride, as you can imagine. Emotions will go from laughing hysterically, sharing Nathan's stories, to something just triggering. A reminder, he's just not there. And we went on this journey from God, we believe in resurrection power, and we know you can breathe new life into him and bring him back to us, to, within a very short period, saying, Nathan, we don't want you to come back. We want to be where you are. He flew into the arms of his Heavenly Father. Timmy, are you going to do that song later? I'm not going to say the words if you're going to do it, because I wanted to hear it from you. No, I'm not, because I don't have my notes. So I was trying to be gracious, but thanks. We've had so many people step up, and I almost feel bad that we haven't been able to actually call on you and say, yes, what you are offering, we want. We just really wanted to kind of be cocooned and enjoy our time as a family. And it's been very strange because, and my husband and I agree on this, this is almost over. Tomorrow, today, everybody's going to go home and whatever. And this has just been such a rich and blessed and joyful journey. And to the world, that sounds insane. But to those of us who have the hope of Jesus Christ, it makes absolute perfect sense. But I had one of those moments. I knew it was a supernatural calm. I had been in this state of peace all afternoon, and I can't even tell you what day it was, because I really have no idea. After Monday, everything's a blur. We were moving some people over to a house that had been offered to us on the lake. It was quiet, it was away, it had lots of space. We could kind of move people out so that our home could be a little quieter and more peaceful for Lauren. And I went out to the car to load up some luggage. I opened up the back of my Jeep, and there were the fishing poles that they'd recovered, and Nathan's work clothing that they'd recovered from the bottom of the lake, and it hit me like a train. And my knees buckled, and the ache came back, and I turned around, and Jerry Flynn had just pulled into the driveway, and I turned and said, Jerry, thank God. And I just fell into his arms. And you were sent by God, and I'm so grateful for you for listening to his call. And I turn around, and there's Tim, and Jerry embraces him and kisses him. And I turn around again, and he's pulling out the driveway. God knew at that moment that we were going to need his arms His strength and His love, and He brought them there at that perfect time, and that's our God. He is a God of perfect timing. He is the God of grace and peace. And, you know, the more we talked about this, and the more we'd meet together in the mornings, and we'd sing praises, and we'd remember and just share how we were feeling and where we were at in this process, and thank God. We realized that this isn't a tragedy, that Nathan's life was complete. Every desire of his heart was complete. He had the greatest joy of his life. They had just purchased their first home. He was married to the most beautiful, loving, wonderful woman, perfect mate for him. I was sharing with Lauren yesterday, you completed him and made him a better man. He was already a great man, but she made him even better by her love and her grace and her joy. He loved children. He wanted so much to be a father, and we have Jack Elijah to carry on and to love. He was doing what he loved. He was working in video. He was surrounded by friends who knew him and who he could impact and shape and encourage. And his life was complete. And in that moment of greatest joy in his life, God promoted him. If only it were that way for all of us. There's another song that we introduced not very long ago in worship. And I've always liked this song, but now it has a new meaning. You ask me to give all I own to discover your great unknown. You have my heart in your hands. I found a love no one understands. I'm running straight to your heart. I'm running to your loving arms. I know what it is when He asks us to give all we own to discover His great unknown. And you know, the price really isn't all that high. Because I've discovered a love no one understands unless they know. Jesus Christ was Lord of Nathan's life. And I am so proud and grateful for my family because you serve a living and loving God. And what a privilege it is. You're not my kids by birth, none of you. But you're all mine, and I love you.
Is it on? I was just going to read what I wrote, but listening to everybody, I thought, and then looking at the brochure that we made for you, I realized I made some terrible mistakes. The first was that I failed to include the fact that Nathan was a passionate pyromaniac, which those of you who were at Charlotte and Kyle's wedding experienced firsthand with all the firecracker things or whatever. Anyway, so that should be on the list. And then also, I made the mistake of leaving the word foods all by itself. It should have a list of the foods he loved most, and I don't even know what those are. Can anybody help me out? Chocolate, oh yeah, definitely chocolate and Italian and whole milk. Pronto pups. Yeah, for one semester of college, Dunkin' Donuts. For one semester of college, Nate actually, he spent it in the south of France. He was a film major at the time, and he was there for the Cannes Film Festival. And while he was there, he became extremely passionate about food. And true to his nature, he would invite a zillion people over for dinner, and then he would go and create it. I remember him telling me a story of creating ravioli from scratch, which I'd never done. And he continually called me, Mom, give me your recipe for cornbread. Give me your recipe for dumplings. He loved food. So, and then music. I had listed on there Lauren Taylor and U2. I didn't have a full list of his favorite music, but his wife was his favorite musician, so I want you to know that. And also, if maybe when we're eating, you get a chance, ask somebody who knows the story of Nathan's night in jail, and then the subsequent day of his heroism. So that was just about 2 weeks ago. Back when I read Randy Alcorn's book, Heaven, I remember him discussing C.S. Lewis's metaphorical portrayal of our